You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. This is your host, Tim Link, and I am so glad you're joining us today. My special guest today is author and writer Sue Halpern. And Sue's going to be talking to us today about her recently released book, A Dog Walks into a Nursing Home, Lessons in the Good Life from an Unlikely Teacher. So a fascinating book, great book. So we're going to talk to Sue a little bit about that, as well as a little bit about her writing styles and some of the things that she does. So it's going to be a great interview. Everybody hang tight. We'll come right back after these messages. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
I'm not much of a reader, but I do wish I were more well-read.
There are so many great books coming out. I wish I could find a way to keep up.
Audible.com makes it easy to stay well-informed and catch up on your reading simply by listening. Audiobooks from Audible turn downtime into uptime. You'll be more productive and become well-read.
Now I'm able to catch up on all the great books I've been wanting to read.
With Audible, I feel smarter.
Pet Life Radio listeners, try Audible.com now and get your first 30 days of Audible Listener Gold membership plan free. And get a free audiobook. Choose from over 100,000 titles. To get this great deal, go to audibledeals.com. That's audibledeals.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. It's your host, Tim Link. And joining me now is author and writer Sue Halpern. Sue, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. So tell us a little bit about the latest book, A Dog Walks into a Nursing Home.
Well, it's about the experiences that I've had over the last couple of years with my dog, Pransky, who's a Labradoodle. And we are a certified therapy dog team, and we spend a fair amount of time hanging out at a local public nursing home, and that's what I wrote about.
Now, the therapy program before Pransky came into your life, was this something you had planned? You went out and found the right dog to put in a therapy program, or did it just so happen to work out that way?
I did not go out and plan it. This was one of these dogs who just emanated the kind of kindness that you'd want to see in a therapy dog, and she had all the great behavioral attributes of a therapy dog just innately. And so she just seemed like the kind of dog that you'd want to train to put in that situation.
And I know with dealing with therapy dogs, there's a lot of different therapy dogs and a lot of programs they can enter, the nursing home programs, children reading programs, socialization for children. How did you go about determining that Pransky's skills and what your desire was is to go into nursing homes and share the love?
Well, I had written a book prior to this book about memory loss, and so I'd spent a fair amount of time in hospitals and in memory clinics and memory care facilities, and I personally felt like that would be a good place to be, just for me. And I also thought my dog would thrive in that setting. As it turned out, the memory unit of this nursing home already had some animals visiting, and they needed a therapy team to go into the general population. So it was sort of by default that we ended up there, but I'm actually quite glad that we did. And in the process, we also ended up working with the memory care unit residents as well. So we kind of expanded our scope more than I had envisioned, but it turned out to be great.
There you go. So how many days a week do you get a chance to go in there?
Well, typically we're there once a week for the morning, and then we go in at special occasions, like there's an annual picnic in the summer, and there's twice a year there's wheelchair square dances, and there are pumpkin parties, and there are just all these things that happen there, and we'll show up just because those are fun things to do. But our regular time is Tuesday morning.
And do you find the residents sitting and waiting patiently for Pransky to arrive, or is it always a new thrill for them?
They are actually sometimes sitting right by the door, waiting for us, and with treats. And sometimes if we're late, we'll get there and someone will say, it's 10:15, where were you? So I would say on almost every day that we go there, there's at least one person waiting for us in the entryway. And then, of course, people are waiting for us all around the facility just because there's a calendar that comes out every day, and on Tuesdays we're at the top of it.
So tell me a little bit about Pransky, the star of the book. How did she come into your life, and what does she think about all this?
Well, I'd just like to say that she's very excited about all of this, except right now she's fast asleep on her bed. So, I can speak for her.
It's tiring being a superstar. You know that, Sue.
I know, it is. The Today Show was here all last week, and, it just exhausted her. She was quite good, by the way. She was a really, really good dog actor. I think she's going to give Uggy a run for his money. But she sort of came into our lives in a very strange way, and not a very happy way. We had another dog, a dog who had a death wish, kept on getting into the strangest trouble, such that I think she ended up at the dog emergency room about 4 times on the brink of death. And then she was actually run over in our own driveway. And this was very traumatic for our family. And I called the woman that we'd gotten her from and told her the situation. And she said, "Do you want a dog, like, today?" It's like, no, not really. I'm just getting over this one. And she said, "Well, I have a dog, and its owners the people who were supposed to take it couldn't take it because it turns out she's going to be a shedder, and these are people with allergies. And if you want the dog, come get her, tomorrow." So just kind of by accident, we did. And it turned out to be this little 8-pound bundle of happiness. And even from the very beginning, she was just a most wonderful, sweet, obedient little animal.
Yeah, I love how those things, there's no such thing as coincidences. So when you picked her up, did you have any idea of the journey you guys were about to take together?
Absolutely not. I mean, really, I was not that happy. I mean, I was thrilled to have a puppy, but I was also still really sad about our other dog. And so I just didn't know what was going to happen. But it was really clear very, very early on that she was incredibly smart, just incredibly smart. I mean, she picked up words so fast, and she picked up commands really fast and gestures really fast. So even from, day one, it was very, very obvious that this was a really, really special dog.
And as a writer, what trigger point, at what point did you say, I bet you this would make a great book?
Well, we had been at the nursing home for at least a year, and the whole time I was there, I was thinking, there must be a story here. What's the story? And I just kept on wondering that and asking myself that until I kind of figured it out. But it took quite a while, and I wasn't sure I was ever really going to get there. And it didn't matter to me because I didn't go there to write a book. I went there to do this work with my dog and to have this experience. And, the book is sort of icing on the cake just because it wasn't the purpose of our participation. And, we're still going. Someone interviewed me and said, "So do you still go to the nursing home? Like, or maybe he said, do you still see those people?" And I was like, "Well, yes, I see them every week because why would we stop going there?" I mean, we went there. I didn't go there to write a book. I went there to have this experience with my dog.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would hazard to say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it's really become part of a family. They're looking forward to seeing you and Pransky come through the door, and I'm sure you guys are excited to see them as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I hadn't really thought a whole lot about nursing homes before we started spending a lot of time there. And, nursing homes have kind of a bad rap, and people they make people uncomfortable and nervous and all of that. And they did that for me as well. But, I've just come to see them as this is where people live at the end of their lives. I mean, it's a place that they live. It's not really much more than that. And as such, they welcome us into their home, and we become friends with them and they with us, and, they know stuff about us and we know things about them. I mean, it's really no different from knowing your neighbors. It's just, in this case, some of your neighbors are very old and somewhat infirm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my parents, they spent the latter part of their years in a nursing care facility after my mom had a major stroke and my dad always had heart problems. And I always said it was a great place. I loved the energy of the people. They always look forward to activities. And to me, I think it actually extended their life by a number of years just by being active and being part of that positive energy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's sort of interesting for me being there as well is there is a lot going on. I mean, not super, super, super energetic, but there's a ton of stuff going on, and enough that everyone, I think, has things to think about and do. And I think, adding a dog into that mix just spices it up that much more, and it gives people something to look forward to. It orients them in time. It gives them this opportunity to touch and be touched. And I do think that for a lot of people, it is the absolute best situation that they can land in.
Yeah, absolutely. I know my father. He was very quiet guy. Wasn't really active in the community until he got to the nursing home. And for him, if it was bingo hour or the local puppy or zoo animal was coming for a visit, you weren't invited. You had to wait because they always got first. That always got first dibs, and then the kids could come in for a visit.
That's good.
So with Pransky, I know it's hard to say, and you guys still are on this journey together and doing some great work. But what would you say the biggest impact or most important lesson Pransky has taught you so far?
The most important thing that she shows me pretty much every single time we're there is that to accept people for who they are and not for what they are. So when we look at old people and people in nursing homes or hospitals or places like that, we tend to see, all the things that they have wrong with them, whether it's that, they're paralyzed because they've had a stroke or similarly they, have trouble talking because they have a stroke or they have had, an amputation because they have diabetes or whatever it is, anything that's wrong, the very thing that's landed them into this situation, that's what we tend to see. And the dog could care less about any of that. She just sees them as people. She sees them as potential friends. She also sees them as potential people to give her treats. So, but she just shows that the best thing to do is just to accept people as they are and not sort of think about all the things that they're not.
And that's how life should be, shouldn't it?
It is.
Absolutely. We'll continue our conversation after a brief break. You're listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio.
Sit. Stay. We'll be right back after a short pause. Well, 4 to be exact.
Dog Shelter Blues, the new novel by Mark Conkling. This hard-hitting story lights up the world of animal rescue with engaging characters and their pets, struggling with their own internal demons as they attempt to rescue innocent creatures that sometimes bring a mysterious transforming power to broken lives. Read the first chapter of Dog Shelter Blues free at dogshelterblues.com. Then come along a breathtaking journey that ends with an astonishing triumph of good over evil. Order your copy of Dog Shelter Blues today. Available at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Hi, this is Tim Link, animal communicator and pet expert and host of Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Have you ever wanted to know what your pet is really thinking? Do you want to find out if they truly understand what you're trying to tell them? Ever wish you could build a better understanding and closer relationship with your pet? Well, now you can. Learning to Communicate with Animals is a 4-part on-demand workshop. In the workshop, you'll learn the essential techniques that are necessary to communicate with animals, including what is animal communication, breathing correctly to achieve the perfect state to communicate with your animals at a deeper level, using guided meditation exercises and method to communicate with animals, and how to send and receive information from your animals. So if you're wanting to learn how to communicate and connect with your animals at a deeper level, visit PetLifeRadio.com/workshop and purchase and download Learning to Communicate with Animals. You'll be glad you did.
Hi, this is Marcy Davis and my service dog Whistle, and we're your hosts of Working Like Dogs on Pet Life Radio. Working Like Dogs is the show where you can learn everything you ever wanted to know about working animals or working dogs. Whether you're a member of a working dog team or you've just seen a working dog or animal out at the mall or the grocery store and you're curious about how these amazing animals work with their human partners, then Working Like Dogs is the show for you. Join us for the inside scoop at Working Like Dogs on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. We're talking to author and writer Sue Halpern about her latest book, A Dog Walks Into a Nursing Home. Now, Sue, how did you determine, you've got all these great stories, I'm sure there's wonderful things to share, but how do you determine as an author and writer which stories to include in a book and what would make it the most cohesive read?
Well, that's a really good question, particularly for this sort of book. I didn't want to write a book that was just a collection of anecdotes because I wasn't sure they would be ultimately that interesting or even that instructive. And so one of the things that occurred to me as I was thinking about how I was going to write this book, or if I was going to write a book about this experience, was I just kept on asking myself, what am I learning here? And eventually all of these ideas and stories sort of collected themselves in a particular way, and I realized that you can't be in a situation like a nursing home where people are dying and people are sick and people are at the end of their life. You can't be in that situation and not ask yourself sort of the big questions, the meaning of life questions.
Right.
Even though, they don't present themselves as the meaning of life questions or anything like that. But it just seemed to me that at a certain point, a lot of the things I was seeing and the anecdotes I was collecting and the conversations I was having were all sort of falling in this rubric of the 7 virtues, love, hope, charity, faith, restraint, fortitude, prudence, and so for me that became the kind of organizing principle of the book, and that made it much easier to figure out sort of which stories were relevant and which stories were not.
And I loved how you put that together. I mean, because you're right. I mean, when you're writing a book like this, you hope it touches someone, hope it provides, fun, laughter, heartfelt, whatever it may be. But a lot of the stories are personal stories that you may think are heartfelt and someone else may think, not so much.
Exactly. I mean, the good news is when you have a dog as your protagonist, pretty much everyone's going to be interested in what's happening, just because people are, oddly enough, more interested in their animals than they are in their people.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I had that going for me from day one, which is great, and my dog's really, really cute, so that of course helps. But yeah, I mean, you have to say, who will care about this anecdote? What is the story, this particular story, this thing that happened to us on a particular day? What does that mean to anyone else other than us? So those were questions that were going through my mind.
Yeah, you did a great job, and I love how you organized that. So big kudos on that.
Thank you.
So our readers will pick up a copy of the book, and they'll read through it. And as the author of the book, what would you like the readers to walk away with? Is there one thing you'd like to them to get out of the book?
Well, that is a really hard question and totally unfair. Because I don't actually think there's one thing, but it's part of it is that it doesn't take very much to make a difference in other people's lives. Mm-hmm. And, my dog Pransky and I don't spend, the majority of our time at the nursing home. We spend a fair amount of time there every week, but nothing that would, kind of interfere with the rest of our life or our lives together. And yet it has such a huge impact on the people who we visit. And that's just something for people who have the capacity to go spend a little time in a nursing home with their dog, or maybe just, do it without the dog, but especially with the dog. It's not that hard. It doesn't take that much energy or, foresight or anything to do this work. And yet it has a huge impact. And it also, I think, is great for the dog. The dog gets a lot out of being there. And so it's sort of win-win-win all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good point when you're talking about, the dog at Pransky in particular here, and the fact that they do get a lot out of it. It's more than just showing up and wagging your tail and getting treats, which that's great. But
that's the best.
That's the best. That's number one on the list. We start there. But also that human interaction, that mental stimulation. And when people, I use the word energy a lot, as you can tell. So when people's energy is positive and they're feeling good about things and you are feeling good about everything, that blends off or feeds off with Pransky as well. And Pransky feels it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she's incredibly attentive when she's at the nursing home. She's also very, she has a lot of empathy, and she's really intuitive. She figures out a lot of stuff about how to behave and what to do in a particular situation with people who, do have deficits or who may, be at the end of their life directly. She figures these things out, and I do think, just in terms of mental stimulation, that's kind of incredible. And I think emotionally she gets a lot out of it. And yes, there are people at the nursing home who spend their money on milk bones.
How can we not?
Exactly.
So, Sue, in addition to this book and other books you've published, you're also an accomplished writer and written many, many articles as well. Can you tell me a little bit about the writing process? How is writing a book and putting together a collection of stories and everything into the book compared to writing an article or getting something out there of that sort?
So writing a book is sort of, running a marathon. That's what it seems like to me. It's a long, sloggy process. For me, it was spending a couple of years at the nursing home not writing anything, but just taking notes, leaving the place and writing stuff down about conversations or things I was thinking about when I was there, or things people were doing, that kind of thing. And then at a certain point, a couple of years later, as I sort of figured out how I was going to structure the book, then sort of organizing the book and then writing. So it's a very long process, and it requires a fair amount of patience. Whereas writing an article typically, is a fairly short-term proposition. I mean, I've written for the New Yorker, that takes a long time, but typically, maybe a couple of weeks or a month on a story in which you kind of parachute yourself in. You do a lot of reporting, you talk to all the relevant people, you do all the reading, you figure out kind of what the stuff of the story is going to be. You do all of that, you get back home or to your desks, wherever your desk is, you look at the material, and you just sit down and you knock it out. With a book, there's no knocking it out. There's just the kind of daily sitting there and doing the work until it gets done. And that can be exciting, and it can also be excruciating.
Yes, when you finally get to the end of the marathon and realize you can't break the tape because your editor is sending it back to you for the fifth remake.
Exactly.
But I always find the challenge of writing articles. I totally agree with you. It's you gather the information, you put it together, and you get it out there. But wouldn't you say it's a challenge with writing articles on how to consolidate all the information you gathered and how to find the tiny bits that are most impactful compared to writing a book where you have a lot more room to massage it a little bit?
That's a good point. Yeah, you have to be much more concise. I think I actually am a very concise writer, no matter what I'm doing. I'm not one of those people that just has a lot of stuff in there. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the challenge of writing an article is, you have so much information, and of course, you've spent all your time gathering it, so you think all of it is important. And so it's a little bit like editing a movie where, there are great scenes that have to end up on the cutting room floor. Well, that's the same thing as writing an article. Less so for writing a book, where you do have a lot more breathing room and it's a lot airier. And so, yeah, you don't have to do that as much. With the book, it's more figuring out all the little sort of nooks and crannies you have to find yourself in as you work your way to the end. With an article, it's, you know where you need to end, so you just have to get there.
That's right. So both present their fair share of challenges, but both are very equally rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing about an article is you write it and it's done, and then you see it in print, relatively quickly, whereas a book, you might be writing it for a couple of years, then it takes another year for it to get published, and it's just, sometimes you wonder, is this really happening?
Yeah, it is a challenge, and I think one of the things I find with with publishing a book is the fact that by the time it actually hits the stands, when you're out there getting ready to promote it, I hate to say it, but you got to go back and reread your work one more time because
I did actually.
Yeah. There you go. You're off on another project.
Yeah, I mean, it was really funny. It's like, did I say that? That's interesting.
Well, it's always better to do that before you get into the interview when the someone actually read your material and said, chapter.
I know.
And you're like,
I know. Exactly. But, having written a book with a dog in it, I made her read the book too. So I have a backup.
All right. Well, Sue, tell our listeners where they can find out more about you and Pransky, the book, and all the wonderful stuff that you do.
Well, I think they should go to my website, which is SueHalpern.com or SueHalpern.net. And on that website, not only will they find out more about me and how to get the book and all of that, but they will find a Q&A with Pransky, which is very valuable, I think. And because I believe I taught her how to say I love you, there is a tape, there's a little video with Pransky saying I love you on my website. Some people dispute that that's what she's saying, but I think if you listen carefully, you will see that I am correct, and that is what she says.
There you go. No doubt about it. Definitely, everybody check that out. Everybody go to SueHalpern.com and check out the video, check out all the wonderful work that Sue does, and get a copy of the book. You won't be disappointed. The book is A Dog Walks into a Nursing Home, Lessons in the Good Life from an Unlikely Teacher. Sue, thanks so much for being on Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. We appreciate it, and good luck with everything. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much. This has been fun.
Well, we're coming to the end of the show today. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Thank you to our sponsors and producers for making the show possible. To find out more about me, Tim Link, and other guests I've interviewed on the Animal Rights Show, and the stories of my blog, you can go to Pet Life Radio, PetLifeRadio.com, and click on the animal rights icon. Download the episodes you want to listen to, which should be all of them, of course. And while you're there, check out all the other wonderful posts that we have, wonderful shows on Pet Life Radio. That's PetLifeRadio.com. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas for this show, please email me. You can email me at tim@PetLifeRadio.com. It's tim@PetLifeRadio.com. And I'll be glad to answer your questions, entertain your comments, and bring on the authors, writers, and bloggers you want to hear from the most. So until next time, write a great story about the animals in your life. Share it in a blog, article, or in a book. And who knows, you may be the next guest on Animal Rights on Pet Life Radio. Have a great day.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.